You ever seen the show Punk'd on MTV? I mean, that was like Gary. He was like he loved to punk people. And so we all bought these Billy Bob teeth. And if you've ever seen those, we were walking around South Beach, and Gary wasn't drinking, but we all had Billy Bob teeth, and at the time, he had recently gotten his nipples pierced. And you just had to see it. Now try to imagine that in your mind. Billy Bob teeth, pierced nipples, it was a freak show. But, I met a gal there at one of, I think the Clevelander is what it was, yeah, the Clevelander. And I ended up becoming good friends with this person, and I don't know, about a month later, put her on the phone with Gary, because he wanted to talk to her, and it was probably about 3 minutes, and he had like offended her so severely, she didn't talk to me again for like 6 months. The last thing, which I do have pictures, and I'll get these to you, Kevin and Bond, of, remember that time, Dave, in your house in Pennsylvania? Richard Stanton Jones was there, and he had hired some aerobics instructor, and we had Gary in a bandana doing aerobics, jumping around. And I've got like dozens of pictures of this. It is complete comedy. And, oh man. You know, there was one thing, I don't know if you remember this in the newsletter, and this is kind of just a cool story. You probably all heard it before, but it's, Gary was really kind of bummed out, and I was talking to Terry, and she's like, "Yeah, we got to get him to write a newsletter. Got to get him to write a newsletter." And so I had written a letter to him about the starfish story, the star thrower, where the whole story. He ended up publishing it in his newsletter, which I thought was kind of cool because I said to Gary, I said, "This is really how I feel you've impacted my life." And the story basically goes: there's a guy walking along the shore and sees a figure down by the beach, and looks like a person dancing, and as the man gets closer to this person, he sees it's a little kid bending down and picking up starfish and throwing them in the ocean. And the man goes up to the little kid and says, "You know, son, what are you doing?" And the kid says, "Well, I'm throwing these starfish back in the ocean because if I don't, they're going to die." And the man says, "Well, son, there's thousands of starfish for miles along the shore. I mean, what difference can it possibly make?" And the little kid bends over, picks up a starfish, throws it in the ocean. He said, "Well, it made a difference for that one." And I said, I told that to Gary, and I'd written that to him, and I said, you always gotta stay positive, because Gary would go back. I mean, you obviously know. I mean, he was, in some cases, the most optimistic person, and when he was down in the dumps, he was just so down in the dumps. And he would always say that I'm a pessimistic optimist.
My name is Jeffrey Gary Halbert. I'm Gary's oldest son. There's a million stories I could tell you about my father, like everybody else. My father was a great man. I have a lot of respect for him. I miss him dearly. My father was a very, very generous man. He gave me a lot of things. He gave me a lot of good advice in life. He never taught me this one, death. Death is a weird thing, and it's a weird thing to handle. That's one lesson I never learned from him. But I can tell you all your stories are very true. They're very nice to hear and refresh them. I grew up a spoiled young brat. My dad bought me my first box of rubbers. He gave me boats. He gave me that big Rolls Royce. And I watched him give a lot of things to everybody.
He gave me his teeth. Closer to
he also taught me that one of the best gifts that you could ever give anybody is a great memory. And I'm hearing a lot of great memories here. And I'm not going to say too much. I love my father. I got a ton of stories. I can tell you one. I was surfing one morning. The waves were great. We lived down at the beach house. And I was late. And I go down and need a note for school. He goes, okay. So he gets a pen. He goes, give me a piece of paper and pen, write the note. I give him, he folds it up. I put it in my pocket, and he was acting weird. And I just go, what's he acting weird for? I'm been an hour late for school. I've been out surfing. I'm stoned. I'm going to school. So just before I walk out the bedroom door, I take the note out of my pocket, and I open it up. It says, please excuse Jeff, my son. He is late because he was out smoking dope, getting laid, and surfing this morning. And I almost, because normally I would just whip that note out of my pocket and hand it right to the teacher and walk away. But there's a story for you. But anyways, thank you all for coming. Thank you for all your support. And Dad, I love you very much.
We were going up the ramp, and just after the ramp was this big Cadillac in space. And at about 2 miles an hour, Gary drove up and crashed into the side of the Cadillac, lifted the back wheel up off the ground. The Camry went in underneath, wedged it up off the ground. He was like, oh shit. Get out and talk to her. I was like, what? What? It's a copywriting lesson, get out and talk to her. So she was just in awe that the car had hit her car at such a low speed. And she was just looking at me with her hands open like that. And all I could say is, what's going on? Gary got out and talked to her. And whatever he said to her, he never paid her a dime. And she just waved it on, and we walked away, whatever he said. And it was damage done.
I know he told that story many times, but I'm the one. Anyway, and it was truly a roller coaster we lived on, both financially and emotionally. But he did have that power of persuasion, and that's what initially attracted him to me. But in the end, it actually drove me crazy. You got to park on that side of the street. No, Gary, this is my car, and I'm driving. No, park over there. It was like constant. Anyway, but he also, I want to talk about his mechanical genius. One time we just moved into this apartment. We had lived in an old house before that, and we moved into this new apartment. And I said, Gary, I think the circuit breakers, I think we need a new fuse. Go downstairs and check the fuse. 3 days later, we still don't have electricity in this one area. So I go down myself. We had a circuit breaker. There was no need to even get a fuse. The other thing was he had gotten a brand new 68 Chevy 2 convertible. And one day I'm driving his car, and it's making this click, click, click sound. And I said, Gary, something's wrong with your car. And he says, oh, it's the tappets. And I said, what the heck are tappets? I drive the car into the garage. It was totally out of oil. I mean, this was life with Gary.
He asked me to speak at one of his seminars in Orlando, and I was nervous about talking, and he said, I'm going to give you one secret now, and if you pull this off, it's all going to be a success. Just before the elevator doors open, he said, just don't fuck everything up. And I walked up and, okay. That's the secret.